So, welcome. I am so happy to see your faces, and I'm so excited to dive into some astrology and some storytelling today. So, I feel like I know everyone in here already, but I'll just keep my introduction brief. Um, so, basically, I'm Sarah Mack. I'm a writer and a mindset and creative business coach. And my background is as a copywriter. Like, that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. I kind of just like fell into it when I went to help a friend in Bali on her business and started helping her with her website copy. I was doing a lot of like social media editing because my previous life was in film production. And that's how I got into helping entrepreneurs with their messaging. And that's how I started getting clients online. And I've written for well over 1,000 different types of digital entrepreneurs. And that introduction into entrepreneurship really showed me, like, the most valuable lesson from that part of my journey was you can literally have a business about anything that you are passionate around. Like, I have seen it all. So as long as you know how to put that into a moving message and, create some kind of real estate on the internet that will communicate that message, you can create clients around anything your heart desires. So obviously then I discovered mindset and money mindset. And so those were the two skills that I really built my business around. I worked in advertising and film, but I have never got an MBA. I, really knew absolutely nothing about business. And I got to six figures within 13 months. Well, I launched a copywriting agency, and then very quickly after was like, we need to bring the mindset stuff into the conversation, because you can have the absolutely perfect copy from the best copywriter in the whole world, but if you're not in alignment and you don't have the mindset to back that up, it can fall flat and you're not going to follow through to really create any sales. So those are the two pieces that I built my business around. When I started my coaching business, I was really focused on mindset, money mindset for creatives. And then I've kind of brought the two pieces back in together for money mindset, alignment, and content strategy and copywriting. So those are really my zones of genius. And then I've been bringing astrology into my work with clients over the last couple of years. And I just think it's the most fun tool, because like, marketing is repetitive, right? We need to be repetitive in order to reach more people, in order to really get our message across. Sometimes people need to hear the same story in different ways. And it's fun to make it fun for us and to add tools in that really, the thing I loved most about integrating astrology into my business was that it gave me clarity and confidence, which, are ultimately the most important things when it comes to mindset and sharing your message and selling, because no one will value you more than you do. No one will believe in your work more than you do. No one will be sold on your work more than you are. And what I love about looking at your birth chart is it's really a mirror reflection of everything you already know, right? Like, you already feel connected to it. You've probably already started building a business around some of it, but just to have that, because it's so normal to come up against moments of doubt and self-questioning or imposter syndrome when we're reaching, when we're growing, when we're constantly evolving, to remind ourselves like, oh no, this is who I am. This is innately what makes me unique. And to really feel that inside creates such a strong foundation for a powerful message. And the more powerful your message is, the more confidence, the more clarity you can put out into the world, the more you can take a stand for your work, the easier other people are going to be able to receive that, get on board with that, and want to pay you. So I love looking at the different placements. Okay, before we dive in, I'd love for you to put in the chat between 1 and 10, like, where are you in your experience with astrology? Like, 10 being I'm a professional, like I'm doing this with my clients, and 1 being, or like 0 being I've never even looked at my birth chart. Like, where are you on that scale, just so that I know? 5 to 6. Katie says, okay, 5-ish, awesome. So, so what I love is not only can we see, what we are aligned to be doing from the signs, from the houses, from our placements, where we have a lot of placements, but also how to do that. So something that I invite you to consider as you dive more into your birth chart is not only to reflect on, what you're choosing to do or the angles that you're choosing to approach your work, but also, like the flavor and the energy and the type of expression. So to root this into a more grounded example, there's like a million ways to 6 figures. There's a million ways to 7 figures in your business, right? Like you can build a business offline doing in-person workshops. You can build a business like purely on threads where it's just short text. You can build it on Instagram purely doing reels. You can build it on Instagram not doing reels. I mean, I don't know how easy that would be these days, but just to bring that in, even within like doing reels, right? There's a flavor and a style. Like maybe you have more Virgo energy and you like love getting into the details. That's really valuable for your audience. Or maybe you're a Leo and you want to like sing and dance, and that's how you share your message and express that. So notice what bubbles up. Just be open to any insights that start to drop in, not only about your specific message and your work and the specific angles around your work and how you relate to your client, but also even your behind the scenes processes, right? Like how you're showing up to do your work. This is all the flavors of the different energy that we bring that really makes us unique and really makes us stand out. And remember, always there's no right or wrong. The more you can be, the more your people can find you, the more they can say, I want to work with this person over this person because I just like her vibe. I like the way that she does this, or I want to do things in the way that she's doing things because I just resonate with her over the next person. So there never is a right way. Your way is the best way. And that's the cool thing about astrology. It really gives you that clarity on some of those insights and details. So, so tune into the insights around your story, around your work, around how you're talking to your client, and also the way that you're doing business behind the scenes, how you're showing up, how you're creating, the flavors that you're bringing to the way that you do business. That ultimately all alignment means is what you want is in alignment with what you're doing, is in alignment with who you are, right? So anything time something doesn't feel good, there's always a room for a tweak. So just sometimes it can be a small 2% shift where you're like, oh, I was like trying to push a boulder up a mountain over here, when actually if I just add this to the mix or take this out or stop putting pressure on myself to do this, when actually it's better for me to do it like this, you suddenly create a lot more ease. The more we can create ease, obviously the easier it's going to be for you to be consistent, the more likely it is you're going to create that momentum and create those results in your business. So I have decided, first of all, have you pulled up your birth chart? Do you have that? We're not actually going to be going too deep into it because I've decided to keep it simple, and we're just going to focus on our sun sign, which usually everybody knows where your sun is, what house your placement your sun is in, what sign, sorry, and also you could use your rising sign as well if you want. And what I've done is I've broken down all of the signs and I've given a prompt that will gear you towards a way of thinking about your work and how you help your clients that really brings in the unique flavor and the unique energy of that specific sign. So I'll just bring up my chart to illustrate what I want to talk about next, because today we're just going to focus on those two. But you're going to have this resource, and so you might want to look at some of the other signs that you have a lot of placements in. So for example, I have a lot of placements in Gemini. So that's a really strong energy for me. So if you have a lot of placements in something other than your sun or your rising sign, you could also look at that prompt and, just feel into what has resonance there for you as well. So obviously your sun sign is where your sun is. I'm a Leo. Your rising sign is your ascendant. I'm a Virgo. And that's all you need to know for today. I also love to look at Chiron, especially for coaches and healers, because that's your wounded healer archetype. I think your moon is also great to look at. And also, of course, your Mercury, which is all about communication. So if you want to pay attention to the signs that those placements are in, really you can do this for any of these signs. And you're going to get valuable insights. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to just mention. So the prompts and what we're looking at today is simply the sign. If you want to go to an even deeper level of clarity for yourself, you could also look at the house. So these are the houses, as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way around to 12. So my sun sign is in Leo in the 12th house. My rising sign is in Virgo in the 1st house. So if you wanted to do some Googling around the specific house that these signs are in, that's gonna show other influencing factors and energies around your unique expression of that sign. So, and that's something I have a special offer on at the moment that I wanted to mention that's like really awesome, where I look at your offer, your socials, and your chart and create unique content prompts for you based on your houses, based on your placements for more in-depth placements. Okay, so yeah, I would love to hear, what is your sun sign? What is your rising sign? Oh, you put it in here already. Awesome. Katie, your Cancer sun?
I have a quick question. So
Go for it.
you're saying Mercury is communication, Chiron is our wound. So then what's the significance of the sun and the rising? Like what is...
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's a great question. So your sun, that's like your personality, right? Like the sun is radiating. Your rising sign is also how people tend to perceive you. And your rising sign is the energies that you're moving into. So, if you believe in past lives, imagine that you were your sun sign in your past life and you were already starting to integrate a lot of those energies into who you are and the way that you're being. So you come into this world with this is like the strongest energy that you're embodying. And your rising sign is kind of what you're evolving into. It's the next like way of being, the next skills, perspectives, personality. And so a lot of the time, people will perceive you as your rising sign, but whatever your sun sign energy is, that's so like innately you. So usually
it's like profile in human design, I feel like.
Yeah. So people will usually when people who know astrology and you tell them what your sun sign is, and your rising sign is, they'll be like, oh yeah, I see that, right? It's not like hidden in the depths. So we really want to obviously, it's really useful in our marketing because this is how people are already perceiving us. And so often, especially as entrepreneurs, we're like working a way to improve and to grow and to like work on our challenges. And we can often be really obsessed with like some of the smaller aspects of who we are and how we're growing and our work and what we're moving into, that sometimes we forget like the really obvious things that are our innate strengths, that when we lean into those and we play towards those, it's just easy for us. It like is clear for other people. And so that clarity and communication, just like the ease of communication is going to lead to greater impact, right? With the least effort, the least complexity. So that's why I chose to focus on those for today. So your Cancer sun and your ascendant is Leo, and Candice is Gemini, Taurus rising, and you find you connect with your rising. Okay, perfect. So you can just go for that then. So I'm going to show you the prompts that I have created.
I have to
go for it.
So I have my chart up, but I'm not seeing Chiron in the thing that I have, and I'm wondering if there's either a symbol I'm missing or like how I would know.
What software are you using? Are you on astro.com?
No, I wasn't. I was on, I think it's coming from Just Astrology.
Because different softwares tend to show different things. So astro.com is free. Astro.com. And I believe in the video I showed you, so I always have it set to whole signs. So if you go to chart selection and then you click whole signs, then there's less of the kind of like crazy alignment that can sometimes make it unclear which sign. And there's so many different ways to read an astrology chart. There's so many different approaches to it. I learned this way, and it seems like this way most people tend to have the most resonance, but there's no right or wrong, right? It's always just a tool for reflection. So just play around and run with whatever resonates the most for you. So So yeah, so Chiron, sorry, is this little upside down key. So this one is always shown on astrology, on astro.com.
Okay, perfect.
So you can find it there. Okay, so let's bring it back to the goal of this workshop, which is to support you to tell stories, to sell your offer. And I'm presuming everybody in here is selling a high ticket offer. So what we're speaking to is transformation, and the most important part of your marketing is your story, because people are hiring you because of you. Doesn't matter if you've never had a client result before, as long as you are the embodiment of that transformation. You have that wisdom to share. You've walked the walk, you're talking the talk. This is why people want to pay you money, because you have the capacity to show them what you've created. So, you know, obviously with astrology, especially if you're a creative person, and I've had a lot of friction with this in the beginning of my business and like in the early stages, I'm like, I just want to express myself. Like, copywriting is fun for me, content writing, social media, connecting, that's fun for me. I love to write, and I love to write creatively. Poetry isn't sales content. It can create connection. It can, you know, definitely like add value to people, but we're talking about sales content here. We want the result of your content to be a client feeling confident to buy your offer and reaching out and clicking and buying. So what makes a piece of content sales content? It is that it is focused around the most desirable and valuable result that your offer brings to clients. So this is something that takes some work to really hone, right? Sometimes it's really obvious, and sometimes, you know, I can be working with clients, and sometimes people have done a lot of messaging work. They're really clear on their ideal client. They understand them. They're so great at speaking to their experience. You know, they've been attracting good clients, but sometimes your copy can be a little bit too vague and broad, and like confused people don't buy, right? So what you want to be really clear on for your offer is what is the most valuable and desired result. So you might think something's really valuable, but if your client doesn't deeply desire it and isn't instantly able to acknowledge that that's what they want and that's what they need help with and that's what they want to pay for, then you're probably not going to be making any sales. So I know you've been doing a lot of this work, and just be open. Maybe there's some new angles. There's always another layer of specificity or way of phrasing that like really hits home with people. And if you're not making the sales that you want, this is the piece to focus on, and to maybe experiment and mix it up and, you know, use your client's language and to be really clear on that for yourself. So this is, you know, the main goal that we want to be storytelling for. And your signs, the prompts that I'm going to be sharing with you, this is going to bring your flavor and your unique expression. So I'm sure there's, you know, thousands of other coaches on the internet who help people with what you help people with. It's the way that you do it that's going to make people choose you. So this is the cool thing about astrology. So for each of the signs, I'm giving you some prompts that kind of allow you to tune into that unique flavor, and that can be the lens through which you see your story and you see your client and your offer. So I invite you to just kind of like open your intuition and like marinate and do some journaling on these prompts. And then here are the prompts I'm going to give you to, after that, you can pull that out into some specific stories that will probably pop out to you as like, oh yeah, this is really obviously how I'm embodying this result, and what I can talk about to really communicate that. So I invite you to reflect on, like, you know, what are the parts of your story, see which ones really jump out at you as like the obvious ones that have really led you to holding these values and these desires and really embodying these unique aspects of who you are. And most importantly, we always want to root this back into thinking about where your client currently is in their journey towards creating the desired result of your offer. This is like the framework, because you're complex, you've lived many years here on this planet. So we really want to focus in on that specific journey of where your client is now and where they will be at the end of your offer. So I want you to think about your life kind of within that section of the timeline, you know, all the way up to now, and how you're continuing to express this work and to embody this work, because that's obviously relevant to your client as well. So think about what they care about. And the easiest way to do this is to think about what you cared about when you were in their shoes, when you were in that phase of your transformation. And how did your story unfold in relation to the transformation that you provide? So potent marketing is really focused on how you are embodying this. So show them. You show them through stories instead of telling them like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do this. Use the details of your own life. Share how you are embodying this now. Share how you have embodied it in the past. Share the challenges that you've been through. Share your unique story. This is, above all, the most potent content. So it's simple. When you're really embodying your work, and this is the fastest way to get more clients, is just to ask yourself, how could I be more fully embodying my work right now? And that's another cool thing you can just have in the back of your mind as you're journaling. It's like, oh, like, yeah, like this is me, but where have I not fully been being me? Where have I not been fully expressing myself, or holding back, or making an excuse, or giving my power away? Because the moment we identify like, oh, if I was being fully me, yeah, I would be doing more of this, or talking more about this, or just more fully showing up and expressing this or that. As soon as we move into that, that energy becomes so magnetic. And that's when it becomes really easy to market, because you were just living that today. And you're like, oh my God, what I just lived through today, being me, fully expressing myself, like here's a valuable lesson for my clients, turn the camera on, 5 minutes piece of content, and it was really powerful. So often when it feels difficult, or we're kind of in our heads around like trying to fix our content, or trying to make it better, or trying to get into the details and the specifics and really overthinking things, this is the easiest way around it. So how to really step into embodiment and how to really communicate that in your marketing is just to simply use I stories. And here are a few prompts that you can play with today. And it can be as simple and as small as today, you know, if one of your transformations is around mindset, you could say, you know, today I came up against like a limit. Today I came up against this recurring limiting belief that, you know, has been bugging me for 10 million thousand years, and I'm so freaking tired of it. And these are the feelings that came up for me, and this is how I led myself through it, and this is how I took different action. And this is how I'm leading myself. This is how I'm supporting myself. So it can be very small, like internal conversations that you're having with yourself, as much as it can be, today I launched a whole new program, or started a new business, or like bought a dream home, or, you know, the external shiny things. So it can be either or. No story too small, no story too big, as long as it relates to your ideal client and their journey of transformation. So yeah, you can reflect. These are two really, you know, like easy ways to go when you're creating content. One of them is like, what's coming up for me right now? Because we're always usually getting whipped in the butt with extra lessons around what we support our clients with, because that's kind of the nature of our work, right? And so we can just be like, what's coming up for me now? What am I leading myself through now? What's relevant to my client about my journey? And you can share little pieces of that, or rewind back to where your client is and that specific phase of the transformation where your client is now. And you can talk about that. So today last month or last year, and here are some really great prompts. When I was, and then talk about the position that your ideal client is in now. Somebody who's ready to jump into your offer, who believes in the result that you're selling, who's decided that it's happening for them, and who, you know, when they discover your work, they're like, this is perfect, this is going to help get me there faster, this is exactly what I need, I'm a yes. That's your ideal client. That's the moment in their timeline, in their mindset, in their journey, in their transformation that you really want to be speaking to when you want easy sales. Another one, when I was, and speak to the time in your transformation where, you know, before you had made the transformation. So when you are in your client's shoes, I guess that's kind of the same. These two prompts are actually like the same moment in time. And then when I had created the transformation. So that can also be broad. It can be anything from like, look at the result that your clients are looking to create in your offer. Talk about when you just created that result for the first time, and any moment from then on where you continue to embody that result and that transformation. So the way this is going to go, you're going to pick the prompt for your sun sign or your rising sign, or really, honestly, any that resonates with you, because we all have these different energies and, in different placements of our chart. So you can also obviously take this away and dive into the others and just, see which resonates and brings up some interesting angles for you. And then I invite you to just, maybe we'll spend the first couple minutes just journaling, right? Just tuning in to seeing what comes up for you, see what's bubbling up, and then we'll check in and we'll share insights. And then we can go and you can start to think about breaking these out into actual stories that could potentially be really valuable for your clients while you're selling your offer. So I'm going to share the link for this in the chat, and I just want to open up if you have any questions before we dive in. No?
I don't think so.
Awesome. So yeah, grab a journal. Oh, here we go. And I will try and put some music on. And if you have a question while you're going through this, you can always pop it in the chat, but we'll just take a couple minutes. So choose your sun sign or your rising sign, and then we'll check in, and then we'll take it from there. you could start to wrap it up. And I just want to do a check-in. Like, how was that experience for you? Is there anything interesting that bubbled up?
For me, I looked at my sun sign questions and they like fell flat for me where I was like, I've answered these in my own head so many times. And so I connected more with my ascendant and really felt like, okay, like I moved through the questions of my sun sign, and the ascendant questions brought up stuff for me like really quickly with a lot of clarity. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Amazing.
I had the exact opposite experience.
Really?
Yeah, I looked at my rising sign and was like, or my ascendant, and I was like, oh, I don't have time to worry about what I really want right now. I can't even. and Gemini was like, oh yeah, I could talk about that for hours. We'll do that one.
So interesting. So yeah, obviously, like, I'm always a big proponent for just going with what feels good, especially when it comes to your marketing, because like we don't need to make it harder than it already is, right? But when it comes to alignment, and like, you know, the alignment factor is like, yeah, that's the inner work that none of us really like doing. That when we put on our rubber gloves and do it, it will like set our rocket ship to the moon, you know? So whatever you're getting triggered around, wherever there's resistance or like, oh, I've been here, done that, or, you know, like that type of feeling where you're like, I just can't even, that's something to take to your journal and be like, okay, like what's coming up here? Like what specifically is being triggered and what am I avoiding? And I feel like the question that is the most potent when it comes to you using your astrology for alignment in general is like, what would the fullest expression of me look like in this area? So yeah, maybe you're annoyed with things, there's things that are hard for you, or like you feel like you've done so much work around it, or you're just plain bored. So just redirecting that and being like, what would the fullest expression of me look like in this area? And yeah, maybe you're going to tap into like, I'm already there. Like I've already done so much work around this. Like that's like, you know, that part is good for me, but cool. Like what's the next level, right? Like that's the next question. Like what is the next level that I might be being called to step into if I wasn't avoiding this? Or if, you know, maybe there's like some ick for me to move through that is going to unlock a whole new level, because our sun sign is, you know, it's such a big part of our chart and who we are. And that's, you know, kind of like what I was talking about before. We love to dive into those like new shiny areas that we like haven't touched on yet, when often it's those foundations that when we really pay attention to those can give us the most bang for your buck. But yeah, when it comes to marketing, by all means, like let it be fun, go where the flow is, go where the inspiration is. So did any stories, kind of like big stories, start to bubble up for you, or do you want to, should we just dive into the next section and then we can kind of check back in? And
For me,
go ahead, Candace.
I was just gonna say, I didn't get any stories because the questions were sort of asking about like areas of interest and curiosity and stuff. So that was where I ended up going. But it was actually like because one of my areas of interest, well, I had two. One is like the body kind of nervous system, and the other one right now is like how to play bigger or playing small, right? And because they're connected, you know, the fear that we feel when we try to get bigger, that is felt in the body in relation to the work that I'm doing. Like a lot of my students are terrified to push their comfort zone or to do their things. And so I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated with that area. So, but that's as far as I got. I could journal more about that because that's become quite a practice where I check in first with how I feel rather than using my head, because a lot of the people I work with, and I used to be the person who was like the head carried around by the legs, like there was nothing between here and the feet, right? So, yeah, so I could definitely play there, but didn't quite get to the story stage, but can see the potential for it.
yeah, perfect. And I have a lot of placements in Gemini, and that's in my 10th house of career, so I totally get it. And that's kind of what like astrology was for me, you know. It's like I've been talking about the, you know, I've really mastered talking about content, I've been talking about money mindset, and it's like the moment you get bored, you're dead in the water, right? When you have Gemini energy. So And, you know, really it's about giving yourself permission to bring in your new curiosities, recognizing that you are you, like you are constantly evolving and it's all related, and your message is your message. You know, no matter how many times I sit and do work on my own messaging, and I'll come up with something and be like, oh yeah, like I worked really hard to get to this. And then I'll look at something I wrote 2 years ago and I'm like, it's the same. I'm like, this is my message. This is what keeps coming out of me. Like, this is clearly what I'm here to share, because it just keeps coming out, no matter how much I think I'm trying to change it or like make it better or whatever.
That's basically the story of my life right now. Like, it's actually really funny because I'm in a loop where I'm kind of going back to work that I did like 3 years ago. And I'm like, I went on a serious detour because I'm back here now. And I should have just listened the first time. But anyway.
So, you know, recognizing that, like, when it comes to branding, when you are the brand, like you are the brand. So if you're passionate about something, like it relates to your work, you know, like there's a way for you to connect it in, and there's a way for you to talk about the things that are really lighting you up and make it relevant to your ideal client, which is exactly what you just did, right? So maybe that's what these prompts are going to bring to you. It's like, oh, permission to talk about these things that make my marketing even more fun for me, and it's still really valuable to my clients. Like, I just brought in astrology and I'm like, yay, now I get to keep talking about messaging, and I'm like deepening my knowledge and like feeding that deep curiosity for this new thing that's, you know, pulling me and lighting me up. So yeah, I love that. So exactly, when these insights come through from these prompts, all you get to do is ask, how do I connect it back to that specific timeline of my client, of this offer that I'm selling, and just, you know, find the threads and give yourself permission to find those little pieces of your story that that illustrate that. So let's spend another chunk of time, and remember, this is about the I message, the I story. So this isn't like, oh, I could tell people like, you need to do this. If you do more of this, or you're more of this, then you're going to get this. Like, no, like keep it centered in the I. Think about your timeline. Think about stuff that's coming up for you now that you're leading yourself through, connected to your client's journey. Think about where you were when you were in their shoes. Think about where you were when you first embodied that transformation that they're paying you to support them to create. And whether they're big things, whether they're small things, see what nuggets of story come up for you related to the topics that you've been journaling around. So do we have any other questions before we dive into this section?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, let's do it. as you're reflecting on your stories, one thing I want you to just tune into is like, what is the obvious part of your story of transformation related to the desired result of your offer? Like, what is just the obvious one that really stands out? Maybe it's a couple. Okay, you can start to wrap it up. Make sure you get down any pieces that you know you need to get down. Okay, so how was that for you? Did you find some good stories? Were you like, I'm already talking about these? Were there some new ones? Was it like a new angle? Did you feel connected to them in a slightly different way? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this is the first time I've been able to like put the pieces together into a story, because I've struggled for a really long time in being like, well, I have this story and then this story, and how do I package it in a way that I've seen it packaged before, where it's sellable and it's shiny, and like I look around at what other people are doing and none of it is something that I want, but I kept trying to like take my story and my gifts and package it in a way that I had seen other people sell it. And so I feel like I was able to be really honest and true to like what my story is in a way that people can connect to, and offers like, and this is what my solution was, and now I'm selling my solution to you, because truly my deepest desires to bring people back home to themselves, and I had to walk that journey in a roundabout way. So let me help you do it in a shorter, less painful manner.
Yay! I like got chills when you were speaking, so
That makes me
that's a
happy.
sign of that's the truth,
Yeah.
right? You landed on the truth. And how does it feel to be
Feels
there?
so good. It feels so good.
Yay! Yeah, and that's just the beauty of it. It's like, yeah, you just really articulated that so well, and we all know that feeling, right? Where we're like, I see
Yeah.
how other people are doing it. I'm trying to make it work in the way that other people are making it work. But truly, the only way it's going to work is when you're uniquely you and you're authentically you and you're doing it in your way. And I love that you use the word "my solution." Like, this is my solution. This is
Yeah. And
really different from everybody else. Even
yeah,
though
and the
it's
last
the
little
same.
thing I'll say is like instead of, it's funny because like what I struggle with is like, okay, what are the okay parts of myself to share and what are the parts I need to keep hidden? But using human design, like what I sell is like every part of you is special. And it just like clicked for me, like, oh, I should just say like there are parts of me that didn't feel special or worthy, but I found, a way to shift that, and I can help you shift that too.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful. And you can obviously, human design, that's another lens that's so great to break down these unique stories. So you could literally pick like, now you've identified all of these parts of you that didn't feel special, each one of those could be a topic,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
you could, because what is more, nothing's going to connect you more than that vulnerability and that truth, that if you have experienced that and that's deeply affected you, you bet there's thousands of other people who are really going to resonate with that. And so
Right.
you speaking about this specific part of me didn't feel special. This is how it was showing up in my life when I didn't believe it was special, you know, and then
Yeah.
I discovered human design. I blah, blah, blah. I used my magical solution that I, you
Yeah.
know, that I created. And this is what it looks like on the other side. This is what I believe now. This is my self-perception. And this is how it's impacting my life. I'm so glad that I went through this transformation. If you want to go through this transformation, here's my offer,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a beautiful example of like a really big transformation and also a really specific story that illustrates that, right? It's like when we pick those details that are unique to us, and always, you know, I'm sure we've all, you know, discovered like, oh, I didn't feel worthy, or I judged my body, or I didn't think I was good enough to like, I didn't think I was creative. Like everyone has a different flavor of that. So by you sharing the specifics of your story and your unique experience of that, that actually makes it really universal. And even if someone's flavor was like a little different to yours, your specificity in sharing your experience is going to connect them back to their own, and they'll feel seen, they'll feel heard, they'll trust you, they'll feel connected to you. And yeah, that's
Right.
make it easy to sell. Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would love to hear how it was for you.
Sorry. I actually just a story actually just wanted to come through. So I just wrote a story that's tied to it was actually tied, it was an experience I had that I actually ended up putting in my TEDx, but of just comparing myself to others, and the way that, you know, back then in the first semester, I discovered at the end of the semester that people were not what they seemed, right? Because they were like, oh no, I totally didn't read anything. And I had this whole narrative set up about how they were so much better. And, you know, they were totally on top of everything. They were so smart. And they basically said, no, we bullshitted our way through the entire semester. And I still remember feeling like kind of betrayed, like, are you kidding me? You know? And now, like, the thing that my students and clients struggle with a lot when they're in school is comparing themselves, and it can really take them down a dark hole. And the other day I was on a hike with my husband, and I was thinking, I had this jotted down in my phone about, okay, I want to write about this. And this exercise, I was like, oh, so like fast forwarding to like, you know, now, how do I handle that now? Because back then I realized the thing I learned back then was you can't believe what your assumptions are, but that didn't quite stop me from comparing myself. But now the other piece of that is, you know, like noticing, okay, the next step is I don't need to, this is my journey, right? And so I can connect to how I lead myself, that idea of leading myself through that now, and how I've evolved. And that's what I would be teaching. So they don't have to, you know, the gap between that initial learning and my learning now is probably about, you know, 2 decades. It can take way less time than I did to do that. So, and then I was just jotting down some other areas of brainstorming for later. So yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. And what is the top desired result of your offer?
And just it's still, so basically my offer helps them feel more confident, competent, and able to complete their studies.
Okay, amazing.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about the stories that you've identified in this?
Good. I can work with them. I think one thing I'm taking away from what you're saying in part is being able to use my own story a little bit more concretely than I think I understood before, and being able to, like when you were saying about thinking about where they are in that little time window that they're in, that I used to be in, and then it's okay to kind of go to like this example here, I was like, oh, that's how I could connect what I'm doing, what I'm at now with where I was, because that's a bridge that was like, I know where I am now, but sometimes I don't know how to connect it to what they may have gone through or what I was going through back then. And so that is really helpful to be able to take the present practice, because that's the challenge. Like, I was a student a lot of times over my life. And I was also an instructor. So some of the things I saw, I didn't always directly experience as a student.
Okay.
And so this is interesting, trying to pull these threads through in different ways, where I can take my student experience and combine it with how I interpret it as an instructor or how I'm living it now. And that's really helpful.
Yeah, so, okay, a few things. Obviously that timeline, like that's something that gets to move according to what's most fun for you, right? Because you obviously have, like, you've been through a lot of iterations of this kind of transformation, and you've also, have a lot of experience in people going through that in different ways as well. So you could, probably serve a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and you have that capability. So the question for you to ask yourself is, like, which section of that timeline in somebody's transformation feels most in alignment for me right now? Because probably what you're going to notice as an entrepreneur is it's going to just start to nudge up and up and up, right? Like, as you progress and you grow, suddenly it's not as fun for you to be working with people right at the beginning. And you're like, oh, if I'm working with people who are like a couple steps behind me, that's helping me deepen into my new phase of growth. And we all kind of like grow together like this, right? So like you just mentioned, yeah, I've had this like 2-decade-long transformation. So maybe you don't want to be speaking to the very early stages of that transformation, because you'll be speaking to people who are also there. So, if you like if you want to break that transformation down into like more micro steps, and it's not always linear like this, but that's just something to reflect on, is like the point of my before stage that I'm speaking to is going to attract people in that phase. So, maybe you do really genuinely enjoy working with many different types of clients at many different stages, but for your offer to really be the best it can be, it's going to be more fine-tuned into a specific group of people within that. So you can have multiple offers, right? Where it's like newbie people, more developed people. So making sure that before phase on the timeline is the part of your transformation that you're speaking to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the the target group for this particular one is the early to mid program. So it's like, it actually does this, in this case, it does line up. But I take your point that, because later I do have another offer that I'm thinking about in my head for the long people, which would be a little closer to where I am. There's a lot more overlap between my end parts of my journey compared to where they are. So yeah, that's a good point.
And, just like honoring that Gemini curiosity and then the desire to switch things up. Like, if something's feeling stagnant to you, do something different, like there's no right or wrong, and you can do all the things. Obviously, like, you're going to have the most ease with your marketing and your brand the more you're speaking to the same person. But as long as it's the same transformation.
Yeah, it is. It's just in slightly different context, like a different application. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Amazing work, everyone. Well, time has flown by, so I'm going to wrap it up, but you can continue to use this. You can continue to look at like where I have, maybe like groups of houses of planets in particular placements, because there's obviously a lot of that energy influencing you as well. So you could dive into some of those other prompts and see what that sparks for you in terms of alignment, as well as and the way that you're doing business, and the way that you're marketing and the way that you're creating, as well as obviously the stories. But yeah, that's what I wanted to add. So yeah, using how, tell them a specific story about your life, about how you've embodied this part of the transformation. And then the other way of, creating really powerful content around this is how this has worked for my clients. That's, equally as powerful. When you're sharing the specifics of somebody else's transformation, you're really painting the picture of like, this is possible, and, you can trust me because here are my receipts, like, here are the details that make it really obvious that I'm walking my talk instead of just being like more informational noise on the internet. This is really, really just watch yourself for where you're using you and where you're using I. And if you can always switch it back into I content, it's going to be more powerful. So amazing work. And I also, if you scroll down to the bottom of the PDF, I have shared, bottom of the document I shared with you, I have a free resource, which is really, really awesome, which is a template on how to write a social media post that sells high ticket. And it just really lays out some prompts for you to root the transformation that you're talking about in the specifics of your story. And people have used this, and like suddenly people who have been in their audience for years are clicking and buying because it's really landing with them in a different way. So this resource will help you to just take, you know, the ideas that have come up and actually translate that into copywriting that's powerful, that's rooted in your story, and you know, using I and taking a stand for your leadership and your work. There's also the link there if you are interested. My money-making content with astrology offer, it's new. It's really awesome. I'm going to spend a lot of time like really looking at your content, your socials, how you're selling, and your astrology chart. And you're going to get like a 15 to 30 minute feedback from me with prompts for alignment based on all of your placements, as well as, you know, at least 10 content prompts specific to your chart to give you that inspiration for really sharing your work in unique ways and just tapping into those other angles that are really fun for you to write about and that really make you stand out on the scroll to your people for who you are and your uniqueness and the way that you're doing your work. So jump on that this week if you want it at the intro price. It's going up after. And then, yeah, let's connect on Instagram. I feel like we're connected already. And there's a link to my website where there's loads of other freebies in the freebie tab if you want to check that out. And also on my podcast, I'm talking a lot more about astrology in relation to content. And I'm going to be doing some more upcoming series. There's a couple of good episodes up on there already. So if you want to dive into that, please do. And keep me posted. Feel free to send me a message. Like, let me know how all of this stuff kind of unfolds for you. And please, please keep in touch. And thank you for being here. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Sarah. So good to see you.
So good to see you. Sending you so much love. Bye.
Bye, Candace. Have a good day.